Hello gainers, I'm Ralphie, the host of the channel called Fitter Philosophy, a stoic, practical, experience-based, philosophical, thought-exchanging opinion site which is designed primarily to share my experience of what I'm observing in life with yourselves, so hopefully you'll get a little bit more and feel a little bit more knowledgeable, empowered and all the rest of it. And my subject today is the moment in history when U.F.O.s became U.A.P.s. Now, quite a few folks seem to have missed this, but last year in 2020 the Pentagon released a press release featuring video evidence from the American Air Force showing unexplained aerial phenomenon, UAPs, which is what the Pentagon choose to call U.F.O.s. We call it U.F.O.s, unidentified flying objects. And it's quite an emotive subject for the simple reason there are absolute disciples who are convinced and enthralled by the subject of unidentified terrestrial, extraterrestrial phenomenon, and those who run away from it. The majority of people kind of somewhere in between, in the calm and deep waters of relative indifference and ambient denial. And this is the subject I really want to cover at the moment, because it really doesn't matter whether you believe or you don't believe, because when these phenomena do eventually manifest themselves in a way which is beyond denial to human sight, and there has been various overtures to this in the past, it's going to be highly significant for the humanoid collective, because the age of denial will be completely and truly over. What does this mean? Well, I think this is the challenge, and why the establishment, the people in power who are far more informed of the reality around the human condition than we are. It's a big challenge to them, because they're wondering how humanity collectively will react to the proof, however it manifests itself, that there is life out there in the universe. And when you think about it rationally, can you imagine on a beach and there's a rock pool, and in that rock pool there's a little family of crabs, and they clamber up on the rocks and they look out at the sea or the ocean stretched in front of them at the end of the beach and say to themselves, look how expansive and enormous that is. I'm sure there's nothing out there. That's a bit like the human condition, being isolated on this planet, and until recently simply not having the technology and the equipment and the machines that have allowed access to the wider universe. And even as astronomy experienced this quantum leap in knowledge, and I'm picking words carefully here, astronomers have learned more about the universe in the last 10 years than astronomers have learned in the entire history of astronomy before the last 10 years. I mean, I remember as a kid watching the sky at night and the television. It was the astronomy program on late at night, and I was thinking spacemen and all the rest of it. My imagination was just going wild. But the sky at night was in black and white. There was a few twinkly stars and some decent shots of planets, but that was about it. But things have moved on so far that now astronomers can identify up to 100 planets and more out there in the universe which are human habitable. In other words, they have water, they're not too near a sun, not too far away from a sun, and even if requiring complete 100% building sustainment for life. In other words, shelters and buildings to protect from the outer atmosphere, which may not be friendly. It will still sustain life successfully. And this is very interesting because of the diversity of planets that are appearing, and the fact that if one planet can sustain life, it goes without saying that other planets can do so too. And to imagine that walking on a beach, this one single grain of sand which has life, whilst every other grain of sand around it has nothing, is simply absurd. But humans are a bit absurd. We are all absurd. And as philosophers, as Stoics, we've got to embrace our own absurdity and do our best to keep an open mind about the subject. And I would conclude by saying that I'm not here to say that UFOs exist or don't exist. I mean, I definitely have my own opinion about this based on my own evidence. In other words, what I've seen. But that's not the subject of this video. If you're interested, I'll talk about it in another one. But what interests me at the moment is how humans collectively will react at the point of full disclosure, which may happen at some point in the near future. It's going to be interesting. Some people will run and hide under a rock. They'll go and live in a cave. They'll be in complete denial. It will be traumatic and shocking to their mindset. Other people will say, well, I had my suspicions, but there you go. Let's get on with daily life. What's on television? In other words, people will be very ambient about it. Other people will fall to their knees, start praying to different gods and open churches to the extraterrestrials and all the rest of it. So some people will go completely in the opposite direction, because it's all part of the human condition. But I think that the majority of people, and it will vary between cultures, but it might surprise you, cultures that you don't think would accept or would be much more hostile to alien life forms may in fact be quite understanding because of their own personal life experience. And in fact, it's the people who regard themselves as more sophisticated, intellectual, educated and developed are the ones that go into a deeper shock, because they're trying to intellectualize the reality of it rather than just embrace and accept it passively and get on with life. It is very important how humans react when aliens... I mean, we're all aliens. Humans are aliens on this planet, so as you know. We should all regard ourselves as aliens. And this is one reason for this mindset, is that if aliens do reveal themselves, they're probably quite advanced, and the very worst and most foolish thing that humans could do is lash out with violence. And some will want to do so. Some will rush for their guns and describe them as devils and deceivers and all the rest of it, instead of taking 3 long, slow, deep breaths and just thinking things through calmly and sensibly. But the humanoid collective will cross that bridge once they arrive at it. It's going to be the most interesting of times. But as Stoic philosophers, for us to think it through beforehand certainly allows us to be far better prepared. I'm Ralphie. I hope you've enjoyed watching my Fitter Philosophy channel, and my apologies to my regular loyal viewers. I made a blooper. I reloaded a previous video twice, so I've cancelled that one. My apologies, gainers. I'm still gaining from the experience. I should be wearing my reading glasses when I'm on the computer. Then I'd actually see what I was uploading. But thank you for your patience. I hope you've enjoyed this. Click subscribe, likey, blang the bell and all the rest of it, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the view.